Welcome to my channel. This video is for a woodland ruffle square wreath. If you haven't done so, please subscribe and don't forget to tap the bell for notifications on my uploads and live streams. This is a 10-inch ombre mesh. I am cutting the mesh at 24 inches long to make woodland ruffles. If you're making regular ruffles, you'll just want to cut it at 20 inches long. And if you're doing spirals, cut it at 12 inches long. So I'm just using my mat here to cut with my rotary cutter and my ruler to hold it down so I can cut as straight a line as possible. That will help reduce fraying. And every time I overlap it, I move the mesh under that piece. I move it down. That way I'm not recutting the mesh that's underneath the top piece. So see, if I had cut and didn't move that first mesh, I would be constantly trimming those that were underneath. So every time I cut, I move them down a little bit and then overlap. Now you can just cut and then move it off to the side and cut another piece and move it off to the side. It just depends on how you want to do it. I like them stacked up neatly because they take up less space. Now I'm going to use these wreath ties. These are thicker than chenille stems. They have a much thicker wire. They are 12 inches long, so I'm cutting them at 6 inches. You don't have to do that. It just depends on how much stuff you're going to be tying down to the wreath frame. So I'm using a 16-inch square wreath frame. You see it's got 3 wires, so I'm going to be attaching the mesh to the middle wire. I know that I'm not going to be adding ribbon spikes, so I don't need that long of pieces. That's why I cut them in half. If you're going to be adding ribbons and stuff, then go ahead and leave them at 12 inches. So you can use chenille stems or anything else. I really like these because they're thicker and they just remind me more of the wreath forms that come with the ties already attached. So I'm attaching them everywhere you see a cross wire. I'm attaching, and then at every corner. And then in the middle sections there was too much of a gap, and I do end up adding an extra one in there. So I'm going all the way around. Now they do kind of move around a little bit in the corner because there's not a cross wire to keep them in place. You could add a little hot glue there if you needed to. To make a woodland ruffle, you simply make a spiral. You just spiral it for a little ways. I don't do a certain amount of rolling. I just kind of eyeball it, and then I do some ruffling, and then you can spiral the other end, or you can spiral both ends and then ruffle the middle. So whatever works best for you, and then just attach it to your wreath form. You could use cable ties as well. Just depends on the look you're going for. Since this is going to be green, mostly green, I'm using the green ties, and so I thought it all fit in. So you see I'm ruffling, I spiraled, and then I ruffled. So whatever works best for you, whatever is easier for you. You only do a little bit of ruffling, but with this look you get both spirals and ruffles, so it's a really neat look. I don't know who came up with this, but I really like it. I think it's really pretty. Now I'm stacking 2 ruffles on top of each other on almost all of the ties, not all of them. I didn't have enough for that, especially on the middle sections where I told you I ended up adding an extra one. I could only do 1 in those, but it just needed a little filler, so that didn't matter. I didn't need to. Now I found that if you attach one piece and then ruffle your second piece and then attach it, that it looks much fuller. Now I do undo the tie and add them on top of each other and then retie it, but stacking them together and ruffling them together did not look good. It didn't make it look as full, and then attaching both pieces at the same time didn't look as good. So I attach one piece and I just kind of halfway twist the tie, that way it'll hold it down, and then I make my next woodland ruffle and I untwist it and add that piece kind of going another direction and then retwist the tie, and it just made it look so much fuller. So I would stick to that if I were you. Now this one roll is only going to do half the wreath form. You're going to need 2 rolls to do this size wreath. If you have a 14-inch, your mesh is going to go a little bit further and you can make it even thicker. If you have an 18-inch, then you're going to have to do a lot more of just one piece, or you're going to have to use 3 rolls. It's just up, depends on the look you're going for and how much stuff you're adding to your wreath. If you're adding a lot of ribbons and stuff, it's not going to matter as much because you're going to have a lot of filler. But if you're just doing like a sign and a bow, then you're going to you need to make sure that it's nice and full. If you're confused on the woodland ruffle, again, you just spiral one end, and then you can spiral the other end and just ruffle what's left over in the middle. You could do more ruffling and less spiraling, or more spiraling and less ruffling. It just depends on what you prefer. And you can spiral one in and then ruffle and then spiral. So whatever technique you want to do is fine. It'll all turn out really beautiful. Here's where I'm telling you it's kind of thin in the middle, so I added another tie, and I did this each side of the square. I did right in the center. I added one more, and I added one woodland ruffle to it. It just needed a little extra in there because you could see that wreath form. And I'm just counting how many I did there, and you can see one roll did half the wreath form, so I have to attach one more roll. And at the end of the roll, you do get these nice natural spirals. So I decided to leave those. I cut the long piece in half, and I'm attaching one spiral to each side of the square wreath form. That way it's nice and symmetrical. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell for notifications. Share, like, comment, and please be kind with your comments, and please be kind to others. Happy crafting!